Alrighty, today I will explain the advantages and disadvantages of the Electoral College and my alternatives to it. Alrighty, so the Electoral College is the sole method of choosing who the president is going to be. Each state gets a certain amount of electors. There are 538 electoral votes up for grabs, which is the number of senators added to the number of representatives, plus 3 electoral votes to the District of Columbia. The number of electors that a state gets is 2 plus the number of representatives that they have, with the exception of the District of Columbia. When a civilian goes to vote, they are actually choosing their state's electors, so you don't vote for the president directly. All of the electors go to the popular candidate that the people chose in the state, but not all states require that they pledge. This has happened in certain times in history where some electorals didn't pledge, but it's never actually decided in an election. It is useful because it gives more representation towards smaller states and more rural areas. This requires a more even distribution of popular support. Just look at this map, it shows that 50% of the population only lives in a small number of counties. It also improves minority. It also improves minority interest, and also it was useful when the United States was a young country and it was hard to count up all the votes. So instead, they just had the Electoral College. One problem with the Electoral College is the fact that there is a winner-take-all scenario. So, for example, a candidate could win the popular vote in a state by just a little bit, but get all the electoral votes. We saw this in the 2000 and 2016 election. George W. Bush only won by a little bit, but he got all 25 electoral votes. Same thing with Trump. He won by just a little bit, but he got all 29. I see this as a way that doesn't really represent what the people of a state want, because they just win. A candidate just wins by a little bit, and they win all. So my alternative for this is the proportional allocation of electoral votes. So this means, for example, if a candidate loses 20% of the gets 20% of the popular vote in a state, then they get 20% of the electoral votes. This seems more fair to me. This is actually pretty similar to the primaries and caucuses that are used to pick the nominees for each party. And again, it avoids the winner-take-all scenario. This makes this method is I think it's a good way to solve the rising problem of the winner-take-all scenario. It also protects the minority interests in a state, because some people's political views aren't the majority of the state. For example, with the system, you could have more representation and voting turnout among Republicans in California. Same thing with New York. The same thing could be said about about Democrats in Republican strongholds like Mississippi or Alabama. This all makes our election process more democratic while not becoming a total democracy, and it better represents states. However, the current Electoral College is very hard to change since it's part of the Constitution.